But we're so excited to chat with you all. We have an amazing presentation this morning, and we hope that you feel inspired, you learn a lot. Today, we are with the D. Howard International Education Foundation, and we have our guest speaker, Mr. Moe Angok, who will be representing Blue Origin and, sharing all this awesomeness, STEM knowledge. So yeah, Mr. Jim Perry, hi, nice to meet you. You're joining us this morning as well.
Good morning. Yes, I'm the principal of Stapleton School. We've got our sixth grade classes joining. Thank you guys so much for this.
Of course, of course. Well, we're happy to facilitate it, provide this knowledge for our students. This is valuable information that can inspire you for future plans in your education. But with that, we're excited to welcome you to this presentation, and I'll turn the mic to Mr. Moe.
All right, thank you, Andrea. Hi, everybody. It is so wonderful to be here with you. I am going to go ahead and share a presentation that I put together for you guys. Let me share the screen and share. Okay, can everybody see my screen? Let me get thumbs up. Yes? Okay, awesome. So I will go into the presentation mode. There we go. And we are Stapleton Elementary. Yeah, so my name is Moe Angok. Actually, the full name is Maranyakucha but Mo is what my friends call me. And today I'd like to talk to you guys about my journey from rags to rocket ships, why I want to explore space, and how I got here. So a little bit about my background. So I was born in South Sudan. How many know where South Sudan is on a map? Raise your hand. How many knows where Africa is? Raise your hand. Few hands go up. There we go. Okay. So South Sudan is the newest country in Africa. And when I was growing up, this is the village where I was raised. There's a couple of my relatives that are still there. This picture was taken in 2020. I lived in a small village called Bor, B-O-R. You guys can write that down. You can go look it up on the map later on, see where Bor is. And this was a little village. When I was growing up, I would play around in this little pond here. We call it Wera Mill. And the language that I speak is called Dinka. The house that I lived in was very like this house here. Very small, about 8 feet in diameter. The hut is made out of grass at the top. This here is called rock, and that's where we usually keep the animals. So we'll have cows there, and chickens and so on. These are some of my African relatives. But when I was around 5 or 6 years old, there was a war going on in South Sudan. And me and my sister, who's a couple of years older than me, we had to walk from our village here in Bor all the way to another country of Ethiopia. This took many, 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 many days of walking to get to where we are. Then a few years later, the fighting continued, and we had to walk back to South Sudan, and we could not stay there. And we had to walk all the way again to Ethiopia. So there was 3 times that when I was about your age, I was walking from one country to another country to another country. And it took many, many months of just walking. There was no food sometimes, so you would just go hungry when there was nothing to eat. This picture here, this is me in this picture. This was taken on our final journey when we had to walk from South Sudan to Kenya. And you were walking in the sun. Sometimes, many times, you had no shoes. And so you're walking, the sun is really, really hot. It's Africa. This was my sister and her 3 children. So whenever she would go look for food for us to eat, I would be watching the kids. So I did a lot of babysitting, changing diapers, washing dirty diapers because you couldn't go to the store. It was a cloth that you would use. This is after we had gotten to Nairobi, Kenya. You could see here, sometimes you'd have some shoes to wear, but most of the time I was always walking barefoot. You have to dig things out of my feet because, you know, you have thorns in there and stuff. But throughout all of this journey, I always dream of being out, you know, what was out there, what was out into the stars. And in fact, I go a little bit, I'll go backward. Back in the village when I was really, really young, maybe 4 or 5 years old, there was a meteor that burned across the sky. And everybody walked into their houses and took out like a pot and they were banging it. So it's like bing, 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 everybody. So like this house, this house, this house. And it was this magical thing that happened. And that made me look up. It's like, what is out there? And I've since then always wanted to look up into the sky and see and wanted to explore and understand what was going on up into the sky. So this is me after we had arrived to Portland, Oregon, just after we came out of a refugee camp in Kenya. So we were in this camp and the entire time, you can see here, we didn't really have anything. So this was some mattress that was donated to us. And what I want you guys to understand is throughout this journey of like walking from one country to another country, always, you know, starving, not having anything to eat, is that you can do anything you want to if you want to bad enough. Because when I came to America, I didn't know how to speak English. I had to start everything from 6th grade. Are you guys, this is 6th grade, right? Which grade are you guys in? Yes, 6th grade. So, so I started going to school right where you are right now. I started learning ABCs, 1, 2, 3. So can you imagine if I didn't know how to read or write, and I had to start learning everything from right where you're sitting right then and there. And it was a lot of work. I studied really hard. I would go to the library and do whatever I could to catch up with the other students that had already learned 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade. So I want you guys to understand that if you want something, you guys can do anything you set your mind to if you want to bad enough. That's an important lesson that I've learned over the years. So now, with that in mind, as I mentioned, I've always wanted to go into space. I always want to understand what was up there and what was going. Let me move this out of the way here so you can see the big thing. So what do I do now? So after high school, I went to college and got a degree in engineering physics from a school called Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. And I spent many years working on airplanes and then now working on rockets because that dream of wanting to go up into space has never really left me. I still want to go up. I still want to understand. I want to see what is out there. So I am an engineer and I work on the New Glenn rocket. Now this rocket is massive. It's really, really big. It is over 320 feet tall. That is taller than the entire length of a football field. That's how big this thing is. And I work on the 2nd stage, this part of the rocket here, and you can see it here. This was a test that we did. It's powered by a liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. And this thing is also really big. It's about 61 feet tall, more than that, actually. That is about a 6-story building, if you can just give you guys a perspective. Yeah, but pretty big rocket. Why do I want to do this? Is, as I mentioned, it is to go up into space. One day I want to say, hey, look, I went up on the rocket that I helped to build, to design, and more importantly, what we want to do here at Blue Origin is take all the polluting industries and put them up into space. The vision of the company is millions of people living and working in space. And for the future generation, which is you guys, to solve all the challenges that are going to be coming on. So we are laying the foundation for something that you guys can stand on our shoulders to help save the earth, essentially, by taking all the polluting industries and putting them up in orbit, and also finding all of the resources that we can use so we can expand as a species and grow. So, so this is the vision of the company, millions of people living and working in space for the benefit of the earth. And now I'm going to play a small video for you guys. And then from here on, it'll be a Q&A session where I can answer some of your questions and talk a little bit more about my journey. Okay, does that sound good? Let's see if this will play. Can you guys hear the audio on that? Yes? Okay, good. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, let's play this again.
I don't think we have audio on this. I don't hear it.
Yeah, we don't have audio.
Oh, you don't have audio? Okay. Let's see if we can try to get audio.
There should be, when you're sharing your screen, there should be, you know, at the top, all the settings, there should be share audio for my computer or something along those lines.
Share sound. Okay, let's try again.
Lost mountain ranges.
Can you hear?
Sailed open oceans to
Okay,
map.
let me start again.
The human need to explore is deep within all of us. Our ancestors crossed mountain ranges, sailed open oceans to map new lands, and sought out the unknown while always looking to the stars. We're curious, and now we're at a place where we can pioneer new horizons. Because Earth, this blue planet, and all its beauty is just our starting place.
It's time to go again.
4, Amanda, start. 2, 1.
And lift off.
5,000 feet and climbing.
This is incredible.
Now is the time to open the promise of space to all and lay the way for generations to come. When our descendants look to the stars, perhaps from a rocky moon or colonies floating in open space, they'll remember this time. When they reflect on where it started, they'll remember this place. And when they honor those first explorers who said, "Let's go," they'll remember these bold steps. We are of blue origin. And this is just the beginning.
All right. So the reason I'm speaking with you guys today is like we want to be able to inspire you, let you know that you guys can do incredible things when you set your mind to it, and that you are the future generation that is going to be building the next great big ships. So the next generation is very, very important to us. So with that in mind, I will pause here, and I'm sure you guys will have some questions for me, and I can answer some some questions, and we'll kind of do a Q&A, questions and answer, and we'll take it from there if you have any questions. So does anybody have any questions for me? No, I see somebody shaking their head there.
I think somebody's coming.
Yep, I see somebody coming. It's muted.
We just have to unmute so we can hear you.
How long have you been doing this?
Oh, good question. So I've been doing engineering for about 17 years. I've been building rockets for the last 3 years. So that is how long I have been doing this. But I've been exploring and wanting to know about space my entire life.
Okay.
Thanks, I
Good
think.
question.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. That was a great question. All right, next.
Can they see you? It's too short. We have one right here in her little face.
Okay. And if you can say your name and then ask your question, that would be awesome.
My name's Peyton, and I was wondering how long it takes to get a rocket ready to send to space.
Oh yeah, that's a really good question. So it takes a long time to get and something designed. We do a lot of testing. So we have confidence that what we are designing is going to work as intended to. So it could take years of design effort, testing, until we have confidence that what we are doing is going to work. So it depends on the exact time frame. I can't say for sure, but all I can tell you is it takes years of dedicated effort by a lot of people to get something into orbit.
Thank you.
Good questions. All right, looks like we've got a question from Mr. Mattis. Go ahead.
What like part of the rocket do you work on?
Yeah, good. Excellent question. Let me go back to it. So I work on the second stage. So this is the tank and the tank internal system. So like you see these little things here on the side of the rocket? That is a tunnel, and we have hydraulics and tubes and wire harnesses and things like that. We also have things that go on the side of the rocket. So I do systems integration. So I integrate, I work with design, manufacturing, all of the different engineers and make sure that all of our requirements and everything is going to work as intended to. And if there's an issue, I am the person that people come to and said, hey, Mo, can you help us solve this problem? And I'll bring everybody together and we'll do a brainstorming and figure out a solution. So I work on the second stage of the rocket. Good question.
Jocelyn, turn around, facing me.
Oh, hi. How much does it cost to build one of these?
Oh, wow. You guys are giving me the tough questions today. Very, very good. I don't have an exact figure, but it is very, very expensive. Rockets cost money to manufacture. And we are fortunate that we have a fantastic founder and owner that helps us with the funding of the rocket. But it is very, very expensive to build a rocket. I'd give it to in the billions of dollars type range, but the exact number I don't know. That's a good question. Let me look it up for you and I can give you a proper answer later on. Okay.
Have you ever been out of the atmosphere?
Sorry, say again.
Have you ever been out of the atmosphere of the Earth?
Have I ever been? No, that is my dream. I would love to be out into space. We have a New Shepard launch vehicle that takes astronaut to the edge of space, and you can experience zero gravity. One of my dreams is to go on one of those vehicles, or fly on New Glenn and go into orbit. That's why I work on these things, is so that one day I can go up into space and see the Earth and see the moon and see the stars. So.
I have a question.
Yep, go
What is
right
the
ahead.
first
Don't mute.
No. My name's Wyatt, and what is the first rocket you ever worked on?
This is the first rocket I ever worked on. It's called the New Glenn rocket. So before I worked on this one, I worked on an airplane called the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. And then after that, I came to work on this rocket, New Glenn, which is a fantastic project to be the first rocket to work on.
How many planes or
What's that?
ships? How many rocket ships or planes have you worked on?
So how many rocket ships? One rocket ship, which is this one right here. And how many planes have I worked on? I worked on 3 versions of the same plane. So one was a little bit smaller, another one was a little bit bigger, another one was a little bit bigger, but they were all called the Dreamliner. You can look them up on the internet too. Okay, next question. You guys are awesome. You're asking really intelligent question, and you guys are all very well informed, and good job, everybody. Nice work.
What's required to go up in space with you so that you can live for however long you're going to be in space?
What is required to go into space, and how long you're going to stay?
Yes.
Oh, good question. So if you go up into space as a NASA astronaut, they have a lot of requirements that you go through training to be in zero gravity, basically. So you go through their rigorous process of being a fully qualified NASA astronaut. For our suborbital launch vehicle, New Shepard, to be an astronaut on that, we take people through a training process for how to get onto the harness, how to get out, so you can move around the cabin and things like that. But it is not as rigorous, so anybody can do it. As you guys saw in that last video, we had famous actor William Shatner, who plays Captain Kirk. And he went up there. He was the oldest person to go up into space at that time. So, and it's a couple of days of training we're getting to a point where anybody can go into space now. You don't have to have a lot of training. The idea here is we want to make it so it's like you get on an airplane and fly from here to wherever you're going to go. Soon in the near future, you're going to be able to get on a rocket and go up into space, because we're making access to space more accessible to everybody. So this training it will be part of that, but we want to make it as easy as possible that anybody can do it. Good question.
Yeah.
All right, you guys this is awesome. We got a very curious crowd. Go ahead. What's your question? Come on, you got it.
Savannah, go ahead.
How do rockets stay straight when going into space?
Yeah, let's go to that. Good question. So do you see these fins here? So this is what steers the rocket when it's going up into space. So they're almost like airplane wings. So it stabilizes the rocket when it's going up. We can steer it, we can control it. We know exactly where it's going on there. So these are the control surfaces that keep it in the trajectory that we want it to go. Good question.
much fuel does it take to get into space?
Wow, that's a really, really good question. A lot. So you see this whole rocket here, this giant thing. So the majority of it is fuel. So right at the top here is the satellite or the payload that's going to go up into orbit. So this entire thing here up to this point is full of fuel. This entire thing here is full of fuel. So the majority of the rocket is actually fuel to get it up, because gravity will just wants to keep you down. Excellent, excellent question.
How long does it take to get all of the supplies to build the rocket?
How long does it? So there are many, many different supplies that are used in here. So the tank, this is aluminum. We have tubes that we use. We have wire harnesses. We have all hundreds and hundreds of different materials. And we work with different suppliers that will provide us that material. So some things are readily available. You can just go and order them, Other things takes a little bit more time and precision to manufacture. So we can have stuff that is in stock that we can order. It's available right away. And there's some things that can take a long time, maybe like a 1 year lead time or something like that. So it depends on the type of material that you're looking for. So some things are available. We can order them and start machining them ourselves and do it. Other things we have to go to somebody who specializes in those types of things. Good question. Excellent question.
Thank you.
Hey, Mo, I wanted to ask something real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Your story is so inspirational and so powerful. We talk to our students all the time about the potential that they have to be whoever they want to be, to do the things they want to achieve in life. If I were a sixth grader and I wanted to be a rocket scientist, what would I need to do right now? What would I need to do in the future to make that possible?
That is a great question. One, listen to your teachers, study. When I was sixth grade, I was curious about what was up in space, what was up there. And I asked questions. Sometimes I didn't know what questions to ask. So I went to the library and I looked at books and things like that. So having a curious mindset. Also, not letting other people steal your dream, because sometimes when you are excited about something and you talk to somebody, they can try to discourage you. So whatever dream you have in your heart, it is important that you follow it. And also just being curious about all the questions that you guys are asking right now tells me that this is a very smart group of young adults. Having that curiosity is really the driving force. And when your teacher tells you to do your homework, it's very important that you do your homework, because you start to build that work habit of working hard, because everything that you're going to do requires effort. Nothing is just going to happen. I took initiative to do the things that I wanted to do because I wanted to do them. I didn't wait for anybody to tell me that I needed to clean my room or do anything like that. I had to learn those things when we were struggling to survive. It was necessary for me to babysit when my sister was out looking for food for us. So I learned responsibilities at a very young age. Sometimes when we live here, we have to be told to do a lot of things, but it's important that we take initiative to do things on our own. So that's what I would tell the sixth graders, to stay inspirational and keep the dream in front of you, whatever that is for you. And it'll grow as you grow. Great question, Jim. All right, we've got another question.
How long can you stay in space?
Oh, wow, that's a really good question. So we have people that have stayed at the International Space Station for years, actually. So I can't remember. I'll take this and I'll get back to you the record for the person who stayed in space the longest. And I can get that answer back to you. I can't remember the name right now. But we have an international space station that's been out there for many, many, many years. And we have astronauts that go up there and they just orbit every 90 days. The space station does an entire orbit. So you see a sunrise and sunset, all that. And we've had people stay up there for quite a while. Good question.
I have yet another question. How much has there ever been an accident in building a rocket?
Have there ever been an accident involving a rocket? Yes, unfortunately, there have been accidents involving rockets. You guys might read about some of the space shuttle accidents that have happened, like the Challenger disaster that happened a long time ago where we lost some astronauts. So there have been, space is a very dangerous environment to operate in. And that's why when we do our rockets, we do testing and we test and test and test until we're confident. But it is still a risky business and there have been accidents in the past. And we try to learn from them. We try to learn as much as we can so that we can try to make traveling into space the safest way possible. Good question.
How much fuel does it take to be able to get?
Yeah, so somebody asked that question earlier, and it's a good question. So so you can see this rocket, the entire tank here up to this point is full of fuel, and this entire thing here is full of fuel. And these big things fly away. They're called the fairing. They'll fly away. And so the majority of the rocket, it's actually fuel. Good question.
What are the plans for the rocket you're building?
This is a great one. So New Glenn, we're calling it the road to space. And so we can take up to 100,000 pounds into orbit. So the idea here is we can take up all of these things. We can start to build space stations. We can start to take things to any orbit or any place, maybe go to the moon. We want to go back to the moon again. So this is a heavy lifter to take up all of the things that we want to be able to build in space. Like we want to take all the heavy polluting industries and put them up there. And New Glenn is going to be the vehicle that does that. All right, we got another question. This is great, guys. Good job on the tough questions. You put me on the hot seat.
How much do the spaceships weigh?
Oh, that's a really that's a fantastic question. I don't actually have that answer for you right now, but as you can see, the height of New Glenn here being 320 feet tall, taller than the length of a football field, it's going to weigh millions and millions of pounds. But I'll get you that answer afterward, okay?
How many like test or trial runs do you usually need to do for the rocket to be able to go into space?
Great question. So we test based on our requirements for individual system. So some systems have a rigorous test. Others, we can do analysis to say that it's okay. So depending on which system that you are testing. So for example, like our safety, systems or things that people are going to fly on, we do a lot more rigorous testing on it. So it just depends on what the system is and where what the requirement is for that particular one. But we do rigorous rigorous testing. So sometimes it could take months to get the test campaign complete. For example, on this thing here, when we have to do a structural test of this vehicle, this took years of planning and effort to make sure that we have everything in place to do the test so that it's going to work the way that we intended to. So that one took like years of planning and effort to do it. Good question.
Thank you.
It's always white. Do y'all just build it in place or do y'all move it out like the rocket ship out there?
So we build it in one building and then we move it out to the pad. So this is the launch pad right here. And behind me, you can't see it, but behind this picture, there is another building where the entire thing is stacked together horizontally. And then it will roll over to this pad and then it's going to go vertically and then it will launch between these two towers. So it'll stand right here.
Does the rocket change speed as it is leaving Earth and entering space?
It does. Yeah. So when we launch here, it will do a pitch, and then it'll start to go up. And then when we're going through the atmosphere, we'll actually slow down a little bit because if you go too fast, the aerodynamic forces can be too strong and it can break the rocket. So we'll slow down. We'll go up. So the speed does vary, but it's going faster and faster each time. But we can control the speed of it. Yep, go ahead. What's your question?
If you go to the moon and if you run out of fuel, how will you get more fuel if you're on the moon?
Ah, that's a good one. So we are actually, there are plans out there to essentially put gas stations up into space so you can refuel up there when you need to, so you don't run out of fuel. Great question. It looks like we've got it looks like we're getting a lot of people excited and have some questions on there. So excellent. Keep them coming. And Andrea, how are we doing on time? I want to.
We're doing great on time. It seems like we have 30 minutes left. So we definitely have more time for questions.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about Africa or the journey of walking and doing all of the crazy things that happened when I was there?
I have a question about the rocket and about Africa. So the question about the rocket is how much pressure is the rocket able to take?
Ah, that's a very good question. The pressure that goes in here, I would say is somewhere around like 54 psi, pound per square inch. Would be like what the type of range, maybe up to like 60 pounds per square inch. One, like right now we are at 1 atmosphere, right? So if you can imagine that's like, so that's about the pressure that it can take. So good question. This is
when you had to walk from one country to another, how many times did you have to do that?
Oh, yeah. So we had to do it 3 times. The first time was walking from here, Bor, B-O-R. You guys can write that down. You can go look at it on the map later on. And we walked to Ethiopia, me, my sister, and my mother. This took many, many weeks, like 3-4 weeks of walking. Then a couple of years later, when the war started in Ethiopia, the second war, we had to walk back. And let me just give you guys a quick snippet of what was like when we had to flee. I was responsible for taking care of our goats. We had about 6 goats or so. And when we walked to the edge of town, the entire area was swampland. It was nothing but water. and the goats just started to scatter away. And I didn't know what to do. It was like so frustrating. There's this problem. They always behaved and did everything they were told, but now there was all this water in here that was happening. And so and people are walking, and you can hear way on the distance gunfire. So things are getting really scary for us. And so I just grabbed a little baby goat and I held onto it and I started walking with it. And we were walking in water all day from morning all the way till sunset. And so it was just walking in this water. And that was right around here. And when we arrived finally at night, it's muddy. You get the mosquitoes started coming out and they were just attacking us like crazy. That was day one. So we had to walk 3 times back to South Sudan. And then from there, we walked to Kenya. So we walked 3 times. Good question.
Thank you.
All right. Go ahead.
So a question about the rocket.
Okay.
You're off of mute.
Is there how many rockets have you launched?
How many rockets have I launched? Good. This is my first rocket that I am planning to launch, and we want to launch this year. So you will probably see it in the news later on this year when you we'll let you guys know when it's happening, so you can watch it and say, hey, that's the rocket that Mo was talking to me about. So good question. We're very, very excited about it.
What was the easiest way to find food in Africa?
Yeah, so it was not, sometimes it was trading with other people. Sometimes we raised chickens, so we had food. Other times I figured out a way to catch pigeons. So we caught those. So it was just all kinds, any way we could possibly survive. All right, we've got another one.
How many parts does it take to build the rocket?
What's that?
How many parts does it take to build the rocket?
Oh yeah. It takes, I would say, hundreds of thousands of parts to build the rockets. So there are a lot of parts to build it. Obviously, the bigger parts are pretty straightforward. There is one, second stage tank. There's actually 2 tanks in here. There's an oxygen and a hydrogen tank, right? And then here, there are 2 tanks in here, but there are hundreds of thousands of parts.
What are you doing? Are all spaceships white, or like can they be different colors? What?
They can be different colors. So everybody has their own color scheme. So white is the easiest to do, and you can put stuff on there that the camera can track, because we have tracking cameras on there. But other people can paint theirs different. If you look at the Vulcan rocket, has different paint scheme, and other rockets have different colors. Don't forget to say your name when you speak, so I know who is speaking. Okay, Joseph, go ahead.
Joseph. So you said when you got it to the pad, it was horizontal. How do you guys get it vertical?
Yeah, good question. So we have you can probably Google this. If you I'll try to send you guys some info on it. But we have a device which is called a transport erector that the rocket sits on. And when it gets up to the pad here, there are mechanisms that lock onto it, and then it's hydraulically driven. So it'll take the rocket and put it in vertical position, and then it'll launch. So that's how we do it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
What was the reason you came to America?
Yeah. So the reason we came to America was for opportunity. So in the refugee camp where we were living, there was, like I mentioned, there was no food, sometimes water, but mostly there was just no opportunity to do anything. There was no way to dream. There was no way to do anything that, where we take everything here for granted. When you go home, you have food, you have a refrigerator. We didn't have electricity. There was no running water. If you were to take a shower, you have to heat up the water on there. So when the United Nations gave us the opportunity to come to America, we took it. So it's very important that you guys understand how fortunate we are to live in a country that we live in. Good question.
I have another question, but whenever that war was going on and y'all had to travel, was it just that y'all were scared that something might happen that y'all were traveling, or was it something else?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So the war was getting too close. The fighting was getting too close to us. So from a safety perspective, you just could not stay there anymore. So we had to flee. You can hear the gun fire in the background. And so our safety was in danger. And that's why we had to flee.
How old were you whenever you traveled to America?
Yeah. So when I came to America, I was 10. I was 11 years old, turning 12. How many are 11 right now or 12? There we go. Yep. So I was so I was your age when I came here.
And how did you travel here?
So when we got to Kenya, we were in this camp and it was hot. And there was a process that the United Nations, how many people have heard of the United Nations? You've heard it? Yep. Okay. So there is a United Nations program called United Nations High Commission for Refugees, UNHCR. And they had they were working with the US government to bring refugees from other countries to America. And so there was people from Somalia there and people from South Sudan, and you fill out a paperwork. And once you get approved, you were sponsored by an organization called the Catholic Charities. And the Catholic Charities was what paid our bill, and then we had to pay them back to move to America. And that's how we were able to come here. Good
Thank
question.
you.
Yeah.
What animals did y'all have to face that was dangerous to your tribe and your livestock?
Yeah. So I'll give you guys a good story. So when I was about maybe 4 or 5 years old, I was walking here in our village like this. Yeah, so you can see in this picture, there's another house behind here. So like that's the neighbor. So I was walking from our house to the neighbor house, and I had with me a little piece of meat. We were going to go do barbecue over there, right? They had the fire, and I was going to bring the meat with me. So I was walking by myself with this tiny little piece of meat to go put on the campfire that they had. Well, this falcon swooped out from the sky and robbed me of the piece of meat that I had. I had bloody hands, and it just took it. Just took the entire thing. It's like, no, this is unfair. So because it saw me, this little thing, and this bird just came out and just took this piece of meat that I had. But the biggest things were you had snakes were big things that they can bite you, and with their venoms, they easily you could die from that. We had scorpions, that were pretty dangerous. Oh, this is interesting. So right here in this picture, let me move this out of the way. There was a a little sand area behind here. And when I was a kid, hyenas would be playing back there, and you can see their glowing eyes. And that was terrifying. So that was not exciting thing to have on your background, on your backyard, hyenas. And then when you're crossing the rivers, there's crocodiles in the water. So that was not exciting either. So those are just a few animals. I do remember seeing a couple of giraffes, just munching on the tree, and they're harmless. And it's nice to see them. And then monkeys up on the trees, especially like the banana or mango trees, they would be up there. So just a couple of the animals that I encountered. I didn't see the lions. If you saw lions, you were in trouble. So no lions. All right, so you guys are fantastic. You had a lot of really tough questions that some of them I'll have to get back to you guys on the answers to those. But I would just encourage each and every one of you to study hard. And when you have questions that you don't have answers to, it's okay to ask for help. Sometimes we try to figure things out on our own. And you live in America, you live in the land of opportunity. And so make sure that you take advantage of every opportunity that you have available to you, because you have some incredible things here. And just keep working hard and keep asking tough questions. I'm very impressed with the level of questions you guys were able to ask today. And I hope you learned a little bit of something about rockets and my story.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mo, for sharing your story. I have no doubt that our students here present were inspired and maybe already are thinking about future opportunities in engineering and considering all the things. And again, I just wanted to emphasize and thank Mr. Wayne Fagan with the D. Howard International Education Foundation and our UTSA Rural STEM Initiative presentations. It's incredible that we can connect. We're in Texas, we're in different parts of the United States, and yet we can connect virtually and share all this knowledge and share a wealth of experiences in different, paths that people take to do incredible things like create rockets and take them up to space. So again, thank you all for this time. I hope you continue to reflect on everything you learned today. And yes, all this content will be made available to you all. Mr. Mo owes you a couple of questions, so that information will come later. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.